In this video, we'll have a look at a bunch of different Steam pages, and for that I invited Chris Zukowski, a professional marketer in the game development scene.
Steam pages have some basic things they have to do. The first one is just tell you what type of game it is and what makes it unique. The second thing that your Steam page has to do is tell Steam. I almost consider it like you're programming Steam to show your game.
He has already talked at GDC a couple of times, and he's also spent several hours of his life just watching people shop for games on Steam. Your store page is obviously the most important thing you have to nail if you want to get a lot of copies sold for your game.
So this is kind of how people browse a Steam page. They'll first come in and they're going to look at your capsule image. Steam has this kind of bluish tinge. You have a nice complementary color there that really pops, so that looks really good. And this is what happens is people will actually not watch trailers. And the reason I say this stuff is I actually did a project where I followed about 15 different people shop on Steam. And so what they do is they first kind of click through the screenshots real fast, and they're just looking for like, how do I play this game? First off, I can see clearly that this is a platformer. Here is where I've noticed your hook right up front, which is this cool thing where the AI can actually like anticipate.
I am a god, capable of predicting every move you will make. Too easy.
And I didn't get that, I went through your whole page. I didn't get it until I watched the trailer right here at 10 seconds. We can't trust that people watch trailers. And so now I'm looking at your Steam page and I'm like, okay, there's a really unique hook. Did they convey it correctly? So when I looked at your short description, it says an evil AI tries to kill you. And then you said an experience about artificial intelligence and the future of humanity. I know for you that sounds like, oh, that's great. I'm talking about this unique hook. But if you think about it, Steam games especially are all about artificial intelligence is trying to kill you. That's a very common thing. In fact,
not a hook
some
on
of the
Steam,
games well, here's the thing is your short description, and I'm going to tell this for other pages that I'm reviewing today. Your short description is about explaining things that are not story and not mood. When people are shopping on Steam, they're not looking for story. They really care about the gameplay. So when I look at short descriptions, I'm always looking for people to explain the gameplay. And so I think you should be very, very specific, not just try and make this sound like it's a narrative beat that there's an AI chasing you. Really say something about how the level changes or the fact that you've coded the level to change to try and kill you, that sort of thing. So it doesn't sound like just a narrative beat.
Why do you think it's so important that players understand the game right out of the gate? Because I can also see the other perspective where you could kind of say, maybe it's good to have a little bit of intrigue and have people figure it out, but I guess that's not the way to go on Steam, right?
Yeah, in my experiences, people have 45 seconds at most, if they really like your game, to sell them. They have 45 seconds to browse it. And what they do when they browse your page is they just kind of skim. I read the whole thing. They don't. They're looking for verbs and nouns. So they're looking at, action platformer, artificial intelligence, and they're just looking for those words. So you need to hit them over the head. And here's one thing I tell indies. Your store page is not your game. When you play a game, you're like immersed in this world, right? You're like trying to like get the feeling all over them, to wash over and like have the slow roll story. You don't want to be coy on your Steam page. It's not your narrative. Like you just want to hit them over the head with the basics of what it is. Because people don't want your story to come at them on your Steam page. They're just like shopping like at the grocery store where they're like looking at boxes and they're like, oh, does this cereal look good? Yes, no, okay, I'm moving. They don't. But then when they sit down for dinner or to eat the cereal in the morning, that's when they want it to like wash over them.
Yeah, so basically at first glance, they need to see, okay, this is the kind of cereal I was looking for. Let me put it into my bag. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And that's why you don't do a cereal. When you're making a cereal box, you don't try and appeal to everybody. You like say, okay, I'm the person trying to get healthy. I'm the person shopping for my kid. I'm the person who has a medical condition and needs like a special fiber diet or something. There's like different things. You don't try and make a cereal that appeals to everybody. And so you got to be very specific with what you're trying to approach, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool.
Okay, so that's just in the first few seconds. Everything we explained happens in about 2 seconds. So when people shop, they're just going to click through. They're actually going to do this, and I watched them, and I actually have watched people do this. They're going to click through the trailer like this. This is how they watch your trailer. They just kind of click through it. Because what they're looking for is verbs. They're like, oh, okay, you jump and you dodge lasers. Okay. And then they go like this. And they're looking for gameplay. Now, you're doing a good job because you have gameplay throughout. I always see a problem when trailers have like slow cinematics that don't tell you what type of game it is. You're doing a great job with having gameplay right through your trailer, and it's easy to tell what's going on. So good job on that. So again, remember how I told you that they're trying to figure out what type of game this is. Is this, they can see it's a platformer clearly because they can see a guy on these platforms. Now they're trying to figure out, is it a Metroidvania? Is it a roguelike? Is it a Super Meat Boy type of game? My hunch is it's kind of like a Super Meat Boy. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess the hardcore precision platformer kind of people will have the most fun with it. It also has difficulty settings, so you can also play it more casually, but it's probably goes more in the Super Meat Boy direction, yeah, for sure.
Good. Okay, so here's what I see when I look at these tags. Now, your tags are super important. Difficult, platformer, 2D. Those are 3 very important tags right there to kind of tell that. I'm going to hit this plus button to see all the tags you've applied. And I already see the first problem here is you don't have 20 tags. I can tell because 20 tags go down to about right here. So you're missing tags, which means you're not telling the Steam algorithm everything about your game. So for instance, there is a tag called Precision Platformer. So let me see if I can find it. See it? Right there,
yeah, that would be a very good tag. Yeah, I see. I think when I did my research, it said somewhere that you should only do 15 tags because once you have more, it will be randomly shuffled or something like that.
They changed the algorithm within probably like 2020, I think is when they changed the tagging algorithm a little bit. I actually recommend that people tag their game about once every month to 2 months. Just kind of go through and check your tags. And here's why I say that. If I scroll down, so tags control what shows up down here. The games that are more like this. And what I can typically do is if I go down without even looking at tags, I can tell how good your game is tagged. So for instance, I see Super Meat Boy. That's actually a good sign. That means you've tagged, but look at their tags. They've got precision platformer, difficult, indie. You want to tell the Steam algorithm, my game is like this one. Because when people shop for Steam games, look, there's sections all over the place where Steam is saying, this game is like this game. This game is like this game. It sounds weird, but when you're marketing your game on Steam, you actually want to say, I'm more like this game. I'm like this game. Because Steam is a recommendation engine. It says, oh, this game and this game. Because if it knows I played a lot of the End is Nigh, which I have, I actually like precision platformers, it's going to start recommending games that are more like The End is Nigh because it knows I like them. It's not going to recommend precision platformers to somebody who only likes, like city builders. Like, I only play city builders. They're not going to recommend The End is Nigh because people who like city builders are slower paced, more thinking, whereas people who like precision platformers are like, hand going fast, going crazy, that sort of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for sure.
Knowing that, you actually want your game to be similar to other games. You want it to be easy to sound like the competition, which sounds weird, but it's true. What I see is when I go down here to Super Meat Boy, I see they have precision platformer, difficult, indie. You want to have very similar tags to them because other games like Cuphead, yes, Cuphead is difficult, but it's like a shooter, and it's got other things going for it that I don't think your game is quite like Cuphead. Geometry Dash is a very popular game, and I actually think your game's very similar, like graphically it is, all those kind of things. Look, they've got precision platformer, difficult, those sort of things. What I recommend people do is pick the games, because you kind of know, you play a lot of games, so you know what games are similar to yours.
Yeah.
Go find those games and look at their tags of your game versus theirs, and just make sure that their top 5, because the top 5 tags are the most important, match their top 5 tags that are super important.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe as a little side question for the viewers, how do tags on Steam even work? Because it always confused me a little bit. As a developer, you can kind of apply tags to your game, but then all of the players who visit your store page can kind of apply tags as well. So how does all of that work?
Yes. So you as a developer, when you sign into your developer account, if you go to Will You SNAIL as a developer, you can add tags, but don't do that. Don't do it through this menu. It's the bad way of doing it. You want to go sign in through Steamworks, and there's something called Edit Tags, Start Tag Wizard. And it's a step-by-step, and it allows you to pick tags. When you do it through there, the tags that you pick through that wizard count more for Steam. Okay. Steam will say, I trust what the developer says more than what randos say. Because random people don't know how to tag games. They don't know what you're trying to do marketing. They don't know what you're trying to position your game to. They're just, I actually hate the fact that Steam lets random people tag your game because they don't know what they're doing. But your tags count for more because Steam trusts your choices.
Okay, I see.
Here's the other thing is, the top 5 tags that you pick are super duper important. Steam believes whatever you pick the top 5 are more important than the other ones, okay? And here's one problem that I'm going to yell at all the pages I'm going to review. You got the indie tag right up front. Get rid of that indie tag. I know you're an indie, but here's why. The indie tag is the #1 used tag on all of Steam. I think it's somewhere like 75% of games on Steam have the indie tag in them. Now, the reason you tag your game is so that you can tell Steam why your game is unique. But you've just wasted one of the top 5 most important places to distinguish your game with the most generic tag. The way I like to think about it is, let's say you witnessed a crime, right? And the police come to you and they say, did you see who did it? And you said, yes. And they're like, can you describe this suspect to me? And you're like, 2 legs, 2 arms, a head, body. And they're like, that literally describes everybody. And they're like, can you give me anything more specific? And they're like, wore a shirt. You're trying to tell Steam, like, this is what makes my game unique, so that when there's a specific game and they want to recommend a game next to that, they know what it is. So when you say indie, it's like you're saying the person had 2 legs. And you're like, well, I know there's some people that only have 1 leg. But 2 legs, that doesn't really narrow it down. So I always recommend indies get rid of the indie tag. And the other thing you can do when you sign in on your developer, it's super secret. I always recommend that developers, indies, ban tags that don't apply to their game. Because those randos, I sell games on Steam. I have a couple games, platformers, precision platformers. That's what kind of game I make. Some people tag it weird stuff. Like some random people on the internet tagged my game as nudity, even though I don't have nudity. I think it's a troll. I don't know why, but some rando tagged my game as nudity. So you can go in, when you sign in your developer account, and there's this flag here, and when you click it, it's really hard to see, but it's right next to the plus thing. It bans tags. So I go in and I ban that nudity tag, and then I don't know how it works on Steam. I think it's like if somebody tries to tag my game as nudity, it just doesn't count.
Okay.
So that's why I recommend that people go in through that wizard, through Steamworks, to tag their game, because you got to do it every month, and I usually do it after a big sale, because when a lot of people come to your page, they're going to start adding weird tags, and you're like, that's not what I'm trying to go for. So that's a couple things. So does that work?
That makes sense. Okay, interesting.
So I'm going to move on. Any questions?
Yeah, let's move on. No, let's move on. We have to speed it up a little bit.
What I like about I call the long description, but it's really about this game, is you have images. A lot of people just dump a ton of text in here. Nobody reads that text. You can do animated GIFs, and I recommend animated GIFs if your game is kind of simple looking. Not to say that yours is simple looking, but if it's a game that could be interpreted as being like low quality or something, like typically pixel art 2D games have this problem because Steam shoppers think 2D and pixel art games are kind of like asset flips or low quality. So an animated GIF that shows cool particle effects or cool animation really helps to have animated GIFs. It kind of makes people think, oh, it looks good. It moves well. It's got that squash and stretch. It's got that kind of juice to it. So I like to use animated GIFs. I think everybody should use animated GIFs, but especially if you've got that.
Okay, is it kind of animated GIFs are always better, or is it whatever feels better?
I would recommend at least 1 or 2 animated GIFs, and then you can do still images for the rest. I don't see why not to do animated GIFs. Okay. They're very effective. And what I would do, and this is up to you, but I would explain, and you kind of do it, dodge my traps, this advanced AI algorithm. I think that's good, but nobody really reads. Like, I think this is actually kind of what I was looking for. My advanced UI algorithm, where you're going to go and I'll predict your movement. It might be neat to show this in the anime GIF, because when this all clicked for me when I saw your trailer. But it was only when I saw the trailer and I saw that, like, oh, it pops up a spike when I'm about to land there. That might be well shown in an animated GIF. If you could kind of boil that 1 second down to an animated GIF that's constantly moving. And then people can just watch it and say, I see the AI actually inserts a spike when you're going to land.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really helpful thing that you should do.
What do you think is the purpose of the About section down there? Are people still trying to figure out what the game is down there? Or are they more like, I'm already interested in this game. Let me see if they can convince me to really buy it. Or what's the main purpose of the About section, in your opinion?
When they're on your Steam page, they already think your game is interesting. So they are looking for things not to make them not interested. So when they saw your capsule and they clicked it, they're like, this game looks interesting. So their mindset is kind of like, okay, it looks neat and it's kind of curious, what kind of game is it? And so they're looking for reasons not to like your game, not reasons to like your game. So what you're trying to do with this about this game section, now it used to be text that nobody read, but then people figured out, let's add images and GIFs. Think of this as like a trailer that's just broken up. That's what I like to think of about this game, is it's just a trailer that autoplays. Because a trailer, people have to click it, and then it has to load, and it has to do the slow intro, and people always put their logos in the front, which you should never do. Don't put your logo in the front. And a lot of people have just gotten burned by bad trailers that are slow to start. I treat this section almost as like a trailer. Just treat this like a trailer. And here's the thing. I know it sounds like you're being redundant. Like, oh, I already told them in the trailer. You can't trust that people watch the trailer. You got to tell them like 3 times. You're telling somebody, you have to tell them here, you have to tell them with your trailer, you have to tell them with your screenshots, and you have to tell them with this section down here. And you've got to repeat yourself the same thing over and over. My game predicts where you're going to jump, and it puts a spike under you. That's essentially what you need to tell your audience like 3 or 4 times on this one Steam page.
I wonder if that's even something I can tell purely with screenshots at the very top. What do you do if you have like a game with a little bit of a more abstract concept that people won't understand from just looking at screenshots?
Here's the thing is, your trailer and your screenshots give you the mood. They kind of give you that like, this is what the feel of it is. Like from here, I can tell, okay, it's going to be kind of like glitchy. It's going to be aggressive platforming. It's going to have like weird, like glowy effects. Okay, I kind of get the mood here. That's what your screenshots and trailer are telling me. But then over here, this explains like, what do you do? And that's why I was hoping that you would put more information about like that AI, like what it literally means to have the AI control you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Also this will kind of give you that context. So that's what you need to do is, why is this different?
Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. Cool. Then that's it for the Steam page. I also have my Steam page analytics open here. Like, are you familiar with the Steam page analytics? And if so, what would you say are the most important numbers you need to pay attention to?
The most important thing is wish lists. You're trying to get as many wish lists as you can before you launch. If you're really serious about this and you want to, this is for everybody else out there, if you're really serious and you want to make a big impact on Steam, you need at least about 10,000. 10,000 wish lists when you launch. That 10,000 number is because Steam starts kind of showing you more when you get to about 10,000. Looks like you have 18,000. You're pretty good. The Steam algorithm has recently changed to hide asset flips. It's like really built around that. And one of the ways they do that is they look to see how many wish lists you have, and they see how many sales you convert right up front. And they're really aggressive. If you don't reach certain targets, they will start hiding your game more and more.
Yikes.
And that usually happens right around the 10,000 wishlist mark. Is when you're on the good side or the bad side of Steam.
Okay. So I was wondering, are there any other hidden numbers here, like click-through rates or stuff like that? Like I've never really...
Yeah, click-through rate is hard because it changes a lot with Steam. And it changes depending on whether you have a promotion. Like let's say you get covered by a big streamer and they dump a lot of traffic on you. That distorts your numbers and it's hard to tell whether they have a good click-through rate or not. So I typically look at, if you're not running any big promotions, how many wish lists do you get per week? And can we go look at that? Let's say, did you run any big promotion? Like, did you drop a big YouTube about your game or anything?
Yeah, obviously I promote my wish lists and YouTube videos all the time.
See, you're an expert YouTuber, so things are a little bit different for you. But what I typically look at is, if I haven't done any big promotion, like, you know, sometimes there's a festival, a big streamer covers you. Is there a period of time that you think is kind of like a resting rate when you haven't done much?
Well, we definitely have some resting rates in here, I think. Let's see if I can find the graph. By the way, do you know if you're allowed to show all of this data? Because I've seen some disclaimers on Steam sometimes that blah, 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 this website's confidential and so on. Do you know if that applies to the statistics as well?
Yeah, Steam allows you to show anything you want. And I could show you the exact blog post. They published a blog post that says
that's
you
really
can show,
cool. Okay.
you can do anything.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, yeah, so these are my wish list here, the blue curve. And basically what you can definitely see is that it correlates very, very much with my YouTube views. So
that's good. That's a hard thing to do. Not many indies can do what you do. So okay, so what I would look at, so you see right around September 2020, you see how it's kind of low? I consider that your resting rate. So if you just shut down your YouTube channel, didn't do anything, and you just let Steam promote your game, that's your resting rate. So it looks like you get about 15 to 16 per day. That's kind of what I'm saying, 20, right around there. Yep, 20s to 16. So I like to look at a 7-day rolling average just because you see how it's spiky? Like it's always kind of like bouncing around.
Of course, yeah.
I like to look, I kind of average it together. So let's just say, what is it? Well, you got about 7 in there. Like, see right there, you got about, let's say 15. What's my math?
Yeah.
So let's say you do 15.
15 times 7 is like
7.
100 a week, let's say. Yeah.
That is really good. I got to tell you, if you're at home watching this, you have to be an expert YouTuber to kind of get to that level. So what Steam does, I think, and this is kind of there, is when you send a lot of traffic to your Steam page, Steam's like, oh, this game's got something. Let's show it some more. To get about 100 a week is really good. I only see kind of top tier indie games get about that, especially for a platformer game. Platformer games are really hard to market because there's so many of them, and a lot of first-time developers make, platformer games. Typically, what I've seen is about, for a platformer game, 35 to 50 wish lists per 7 days. That's like typical indie platformers. The Steam audience really doesn't like platformers very much. Just to go there. But you're doing very well, I can say. You're doing very well with your promotion. So did you do any festivals or anything?
No, nothing. Just YouTube videos.
Because I see a huge spike in the beginning, like kind of in the May 2020, that right there. Was that when you launched your game? What's different there versus later?
That is when I got a lot of views on YouTube. So that...
It was just a killer video.
Basically, I had a viral video or two, and that's where these spikes are coming from.
Like I know a couple indies that can pull off the YouTube promotion. You got to have the personality. You got to have a long, big channel. I've seen a couple indies. It's effective, but you have to have the personality for it.
Yeah, of course.
You have to be right for it.
What would you say are some other ways to get some people to your Steam page and to generate some wish lists?
Okay, so the big ones are festivals. We're kind of in the middle of festival season right now. We just had Mix. We got PAX coming up. Every 4 months, Steam runs a seasonal festival where upcoming games, you can upload a demo, and then they'll host your demo. You can only do one of those per year. Steam will hard lock you for 365 days. You can only do one. Each one of those festivals will get you around 700 to 1,000 wish lists, somewhere around there. A streamer, if you get covered by a big streamer, let's say like Jonas or somebody, you can expect anywhere from about 500 to like 2,000, somewhere in there, depending on the size of the streamer and how good they are at getting people to convert. A beta is a great way to do it. I see betas can get you about 1,000 to 1,500 if you promote it well. Basically, for a month, you say, hey, I'm running a beta. I'm going to run a beta. Everybody join, either join my mailing list or come wish list. There's a new Steam feature called Playtest. Come do that. I find that if you promote it well and you tell the press, you tell streamers, there are streamers that just cover betas. If you tell them you've got an upcoming beta, they'll send traffic and say, hey, this game has got a beta coming up. Just search for betas on Google. There's sites that just specialize in promoting betas.
Oh, interesting.
Submit your game to those. And you can run multiple betas. That's kind of what Valheim did. They ran betas and alphas all the time.
Yeah, I see. But it kind of makes a difference if you have a consumable game or one that kind of has more playtime, right?
Yeah, if you are doing a story-based game, it's tricky. It's really hard to do that. Another good thing is Reddit or Imager. Those sites, if you can write a good story, post on there, you can get anywhere from about 400 to about 1,500 wish lists. If you get a viral one of those, like you post something and then it goes viral on Reddit or Imager, you can get 400 to about 1,500 wish lists just from that. So basically you're chaining these moments together. Other thing that you're not asking about is the kind of like flat times. This is why I teach people and why I created this class called howtomakeasteampage.com. You can just go there and sign up. If you have a good Steam page, you can increase your resting rate. So basically, like when you're not doing anything, maybe you don't have a viral post, you don't have a YouTube coming out, your level is a little bit higher. And that's just based off how good your Steam page is and how those tags that I told you about, that's how they get recommended. So let me show you, there's another page on Steam. It's called, switch over to it. It's straight on the dashboard. It's called visibility. Now this just tells you how much traffic, just straight up, doesn't tell you about wish lists. It just tells you like how many people hit your page, how many people viewed it, that sort of thing.
Traffic breakdown. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So your most recent week, you got 5,000 impressions. An impression is how many times people saw your capsule. And then click-through rate is kind of a misnomer. It's not a great statistic. The one you want is visits. So you had, last week you had almost 2,000 people hit your page. Now, here's the thing. The reason your click-through rate is so high, see how it's 32%?
Yeah.
It's not because you have such an awesome capsule, although I like your capsule. It's pretty good. It's because you have YouTube traffic, and your YouTube traffic goes straight to the page. And so they don't see your capsule first. They just go straight to your page because click-through rate is just Steam just saying visits over impressions. It's just a simple math equation they did.
Okay.
So that's artificially high. Most people who don't have awesome YouTube channels like you will not have that high of a click-through rate. Their click-through rate probably is in the range of 5 to 10%.
Yeah,
so
10% sounds like a good click-through rate. Actually, that's probably pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Top.
Yeah, if you've got a very, very low click-through rate, like if your click-through rate is like somewhere in the range of 3% to 0% click-through rate, that means you probably need an improvement on your capsule. Your capsule should look more professional. I typically find people who don't have professional capsules, you don't want a screenshot as your capsule because that looks cheap. You want a really professional capsule.
So you basically also see where the traffic is coming from here, right? The one at the top is total, and then the green one is external websites.
That's YouTube.
Interesting. Yeah, here you can clearly see that whenever there's a spike from YouTube, direct navigation and search suggestions also spike up. That's probably because some people just type it into Steam instead of using the link, right? Yeah.
Exactly. That's what people are doing. They are saying, oh, this looks good. And rather than clicking your link that's maybe on your YouTube, they're just typing it in either to the search box or just Googling for it. And so both of those will be counted as direct traffic or search suggestions. So that's what you're seeing there. Let's scroll down. Let me show you one thing that can improve a little bit. So let's scroll down here. Just stop right here. Okay, so bot traffic, other pages, direct Steam results. Okay, see that one that's called Discovery Queue?
Yeah.
It's 182. That's not that great. Let's see. Let me just do the math real quick on that one. So let's say that's 90 days. You got two people came to your page every day because of discovery traffic, Discovery Queue. That's not that great. Typically what I see is somewhere around the 10 to 15 per day, if you've got that right. And so this is what Discovery Queue is. So your Discovery Queue is, have you ever used that on Steam?
I actually have not used that, no.
Okay, Discovery Queue is actually how a lot of people find games on Steam. It's a very high traffic source for people who don't have YouTube channels. So what Steam does is it finds games, it gives you 10 games every day. So it's kind of fun. Some people like to play it. Basically, you go on Steam and there's this button that says Discovery Queue, and you click it and just randomly pulls up 10 games that Steam thinks that you're going to like and shows you those 10 games. And if you like it, you say, yeah, wishlist it, or you say ignore, and then you hit next. And it just finds these 10 games. A lot of people on Steam use it. Not everybody, but a lot of people use Discovery Queue. Your Discovery Queue numbers are actually pretty low when you average it over all the days. And what that tells me is that Steam does not know what type of game you have. The whole thing of Steam is they know what type of games you've played in the past. That's how Discovery Queue works. Steam knows you. They know how many hours you played down to the minute of how many times you've played a game. And so what Discovery Queue does is it looks at what you've played in the past and what kind of games are out there, and it matches those up. And if your tags aren't good, Steam doesn't know what type of game you have, and if Steam doesn't know what type of game you have, it's never going to recommend your game in this queue.
But is it just the text, or is it also like the amount of people who hit wishlist once they see my game, right? That could also be a problem, that Steam is just like, keep showing the game in Discovery Queue, but nobody wishlisted, so I just stop showing it, right?
What'll happen is similar. What you'll see is when you fix your tags, all of a sudden your Discovery Queue numbers will go up. Because what Steam does is that when you change your tags, Steam is going to be like, okay, let's pop this game in the Discovery Queue a few more times. So it's going to put your game in more times, and people will see it. And if they hit ignore too many times, Steam says like, stop showing that game. People don't like that game. Discovery Queue by itself will not make your game a hit or not. But I use Discovery Queue and your performance in the Discovery Queue, like how many times you're shown every day, as an indicator of how confident Steam is about your game type.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's pretty smart.
What I see is when a game is hitting it right, I see about 10 to 15 visits per Discovery Queue per day. You're hitting it about 1 to 2 per day. You're kind of inefficient on Steam as far as what it knows to recommend your game for. That's what I see when I look at the Discovery Queue.
Okay, now that we covered the basics, it's time to move on to more games, and we'll start with Karlson.
First thing I see is, of course, this, and I'm definitely getting Portal vibes. That's good. Don't think that I'm saying this is a Portal clone or anything. It is actually very beneficial on Steam to look like other games because Steam's recommending games to people. There's the trailer. I'm going to stop this because most people, when they're shopping on Steam, skip the trailer. They just kind of click through it. I can see you shoot. I can see you leap, and there's parkour. Good. Okay. So already they're thinking, okay, kind of like you're weaving through stuff and jumping with it. So then what they'll typically do is also kind of screenshots. Okay, this is very Portal. I see a gun here and explosions. I see this bot. A lot of people want to see gameplay, and these both, just by their nature with the zoom, this looks like a cinematic, which I would not recommend. And the other thing is your first 4 screenshots are the most important ones. And that's because, and I'm going to show you a trick, and I didn't show you this earlier, there's this thing called the hover tooltip. And when somebody sees a capsule and they're interested in the game, they're going to put their mouse over it, and then this thing hops up, and it's called the hover tooltip. And it's your first 4 screenshots automatically pulled. So your first 4 screenshots are super duper important. And what I see is 1 bot, 2 bot. You've wasted 2 of your 4 spots with this little robot. And I don't necessarily think that those are critical to explaining gameplay. Remember what I say is the most important thing is you have to tell people how you play the game. And I don't think that these 2 bots are required. Yes, they may be the goal or the villain, but that's the story. That's not how you play the game. So I would suggest moving these two bot images outside of the top 4. I think this gun exploding with the sparks, excellent. This is a perfect screenshot that tells you gameplay. The other thing is when I was looking through these, I can't tell in a screenshot what's going on. I know it's a grapple hook, but from watching the trailer and stuff, but again, not necessarily gameplay. This also is not really gameplay. Yes, there's a bot standing there, but it doesn't show action and what you do.
So you're kind of looking for these gameplay verbs of what the player is doing, right?
Exactly. And there's one thing that I wish was a screenshot that's not, and let me show you exactly what it is. I saw it in the trailer and I was like, why is this not a screenshot? But this one, here it is right here. When I saw the screenshot, I can see the hot lava, I can see the arrows, I can see these 2 panels, and I can see you bobbing between them. That, like, I understand the game when I see this. I'm like, okay, I get it. I would expect something like this to be a screenshot.
Yeah, I guess you don't really see that it's a parkour game in the other screenshots as much, and this one really explains that quite well. That's true.
Exactly. You have to like, from what I saw from absorbing this game, there's parkour like this part. There's some shooting, like rocket jumping, it looks like, with that shotgun. You've got the grapple hook, and then maybe you have some puzzle elements. You know, I see those as your 4 key gameplay items. What I recommend in my class on how to market your Steam page and how to make a Steam page is you pick out what your 4 key gameplay elements are, and you just have to repeat them like all the time. Your first 4 screenshots are your 4 key gameplay elements. I don't see that because after they look through the screenshots, if they can't make sense of what the game is, they're going to look here. And so when you see that, I don't see anything. I see FPS, that's good. You've got the genre right there, FPS, parkour, cool, and slow-mo. Awesome, and milk. Yeah, you got to put the joke. But, you know, that's good. The one thing that I don't see is it doesn't explain kind of the tools. You don't explain the kind of tools that you have available to you. So, for example, I would mention in the short description, use a grappling hook, rocket jump, I assume it's rocket jumping, and then like run on the walls. You have to be very explicit in the verbs. Think of the verbs, and you got to inject those verbs in the short description. I would replace this milk infused. It tells story, and shoppers on Steam aren't looking for story. They're looking for what do I literally do in this game, and rocket jumping, grapple hook, and parkour are really what they should have in there. I know you mentioned parkour, but what does that mean? Does that mean I can run on the walls, or does it mean I'm doing jumping? Whatever it is, you got to explain it.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Okay, your tags, I don't know. You don't have the indie tag in there, which is a thumbs up on that. So all I'll look at is things that games are similar. You know how I mentioned that you have to be similar? I see Doom and Gunfire Reborn. Both of those are 2 different types of FPSs, and I don't think they're quite your FPS. I would expect Portal to be in here.
But Portal would be a puzzle game, right? That's quite different in terms of gameplay.
It could be, and that's up to you. I haven't played this game, so I don't know. The fact that Doom's showing up, that means Steam knows it's an FPS, but it doesn't know what type of FPS, because there are very specific subgenres in FPS. And this makes me think your tags could be a little bit more specific. So this is perfect. Love the animated GIF. But here's the thing. I see this as kind of a missed opportunity here. This is awesome. This is a great GIF. I see a rocket jump, and I see that guy. That's perfect. But I'd expect another one to see for the grapple hook, because that's a neat mechanic. I saw one where you had the grapple hook, you swung in through a window. That was so cool. Put that in an animated GIF and put it there. I would also show the parkour part, because remember I said you have to keep repeating the same stuff over and over again? I would show how parkour works. Like, what are you doing? What's the parkour aspect of it? Show an animation of that.
So basically take the most important parts out of the trailer again and show them here again, because as we've learned, the About section is pretty much your backup trailer for the people who missed it in the real trailer.
Exactly. It sounds repetitive, but you got to be repetitive on your Steam page.
Okay.
Good job on Karlson. I think it's a pretty good Steam page.
Next up, we did Hollow Knight. First of all, because you requested it, but also because it's kind of similar to Will You Snail, as it's another platformer, and I found it kind of interesting to compare the two.
One thing with Hollow Knight, and this is one thing that I tell indies, especially if you're first time making a game, don't compare yourself to the best indie games who hit big success and are more mature. When you're a big success and you've been around for years and you're kind of like a new modern classic, which Hollow Knight I consider a modern classic, they're at a different level. So you can't compare too much with what they do. Like, some of the stuff I see is not ideal, but it doesn't matter because they've made it. They launched and they were successful. So I always warn people not to look at the big guys too much because you're not playing the same game they are.
Yeah.
But, okay, so first thing that I like though, they put a little too many logos, but look, right here. I can kind of see gameplay within 4 seconds. That's a good thing. Now, right here, I can kind of see gameplay. They're saying descend. You can kind of see that this is Metroidvania, because like Metroidvanias are always very vertical and they've got those like platforms that you like hop up the thing. So already I'm getting Metroidvania vibes, and it's within, I think, 6 seconds. Perfect. You should be doing this, what they do. Here's one thing that I don't like, but they get a pass because they've been around forever. Look at how many trailers they have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's what people do. They watch the trailer by skipping around. They'll go like this. They'll go, okay, I see that, I see that, I see that. And they'll kind of play it so they can see some motion. They're like, okay, I think I get it, but let me look at screenshots. They want screenshots like in the slot number 2, number 3. Ugh. So now what they got to do is they got to go click so many times to get to, now it is. I had to click like 5 extra times to get to screenshots. 1, maybe 2 trailers on your Steam page, tops. But this game's so popular and so big, it's there. Now, let's look at their top 4 screenshots. Remember, top 4 are most important. What do we have here? I think this is a boss battle, right? Or is this a not? This is a boss battle. I remember playing against this guy. This is a boss battle. So what? We've got 3 boss battles in our first screenshot. We already told them that there's boss battles. So move some of these out of here. This 4th one, it shows that it's not just always on the ground. There's some aerial combat stuff. So that's good. I do like how colorful these are. Each screenshot's a different color. That's cool. But the fact that you're saying the same thing 3 times with your first 3 screenshots, not ideal. You want to show the breadth of your game. I would move one of these boss fights or 2 of these boss fights out. This right here is awesome. When I think Metroidvanias, I think of huge maps that you have to go through. It sounds weird, but a map screenshot for the right type of game is perfect because it tells people Metroidvania. They see this map and like, oh, I bet this is a Metroidvania, right?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a misconception that people maybe even want to hide their UI in the screenshots or something like that. You probably shouldn't do that because UI and maps and stuff like that can be really good at explaining what your game is, right?
Exactly. Look, UI can tell a lot just by things. See how there's a circle with this filled in thing? That means magic to me. I play the game, so I kind of know it's like your special abilities. So just seeing that UI, you're like, oh, I bet I have special abilities. And there's a long bar of these things. To me, that reads as health, like, oh, hit points. So you kind of know, okay, there's going to be a lot of combat. Look at how big the health bar is. That means I'm going to get hit a lot. Very subtle things, subconsciously, without people realizing it, is conveyed through UI. So don't hide your UI. And this is a cool UI. I like this one because look, it shows your inventory. I'm not sure what this is, but I see a lot of spots. This tells me this game is deep. Like, people on Steam like deep games. They don't like silly arcade games that last like an hour and then you're tired of it. They want deep games. And when I see a really complex UI like this, I'm saying I'm in for the long haul. This is a big, juicy game that's going to have hours of content just by looking. That's what this UI tells me, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Let's look at the short description. So after they look at that, they'll look at the short description and they skim it. So forge your own path, blah, blah, blah. Hollow Knight, epic action adventure. I hate this term, but they kind of earn it just because everybody says their game's an epic action adventure. Kingdom of Insects, who cares? Explore, twist. Okay, here's where it gets good. Explore twisting caverns. That means Metroidvania. Battle creatures. Good. Befriend bizarre bugs. Okay. And 2D style. You don't have to describe your art style because people see the art style in screenshots. Let screenshots be screenshots. They're good at explaining mood, art style. So you don't have to explain it. You don't have to say with unique visuals in your short description because they'll know it's unique visuals. They look at your screenshots. The things I like, they explain verbs. Explore, battle, befriend. Those are cool verbs. And so I'm already thinking, okay, Metroidvania. Then look at the first tag. This is cool. Metroidvania right there. Souls-like. Awesome. Platformer, difficult. You could almost use those four tags and explain the game. You're like, oh, okay, Metroidvania, Souls-like, platformer, difficult. Awesome. I understand this game now. They don't have the indie tag, which is thumbs up on them. So right there, pretty cool Steam page right here. It's telling me what type of game this is. So their long description, they have cool art. I would prefer to see not so much this art. I'd prefer to see more of animated GIFs of how you play the game. But again, this is such a popular game. They get away with it. So that's the basics of how their Steam page looks. I think it's especially for modern classic, huge AAA indie games, this is a good Steam page.
Next up, I wanted to have a look at Glitcheon, which is a game by one of my friends and his team. I already covered the game on this channel before. It's another Metroidvania, so it should be an interesting comparison to Hollow Knight.
Okay, so when I first come to a page, if I'm role-playing as the way a person shops, I'm going to be like, okay, what type of game is this? So I'm either going to look at this trailer, which we started midway, but okay, so I'm like, what kind of game? I'm scanning here. I still don't see anything. Okay, I saw my first platform jump right here. 5 seconds, not bad. I like it. Under 10, 5. I would cut a lot of that stuff, but I think it's okay. So I'm starting to see already, okay, it's a platformer. I'm seeing some platformer, some monsters chase me. Okay, Metroidvania maybe, but I see mostly platformer so far. And I see right here, Metroidvania platformer. Perfect. That's really good. You're very clear on your genre. I think that's great here. Tech monopoly, known as the forum, has gone completely unchecked. Okay, we've kind of discussed this a little bit. Short descriptions are not a place for lore. A lot of players don't care about lore at this point. Even if they're into narrative games, their number one question is, what do I do in this game? How do I control it? So I would say skip a lot of this narrative. Next, you say use glitchy abilities to exploit intentional bugs to your advantage as you begin to uncover true nature. I think that's cool, saying use glitchy abilities. That's neat. But to me, I still don't get what the glitchy ability is. Is it just a visual effect? What does it mean to glitch? Does it mean I get to go through a wall? Does it mean I get to fly? What is a glitchy ability? I don't know what that is. I've never played this game. I'm just a shopper. What I'm thinking here is you need to explain this. And so what I'm back in my mind is I'm going to be looking, how do they explain what the glitchy ability is? And when I look through the screenshots here, I see platform jumping. I see a guy standing on some blue stuff. I'm looking for what's going to explain what a glitchy ability is. What makes this game unique? This looks glitchy, but what's going on here? Is this hot lava that I have to not step on? Or am I causing this? So these are kind of the things that I'm thinking here. Like, what is this glitchy ability? I would be explicit here as say, like, use glitchy abilities such as the ability to go through walls or to rewind time. Whatever that glitchy ability is, make it explicit, like absolutely explicit.
So if you have multiple abilities, you can just name a couple of examples just to give people an idea of what a glitchy ability means in your game, right?
Exactly. And state the coolest one. Don't surprise them. A lot of indies like to hold back on their coolest things. Don't. More often than more likely than not, people are not going to play your game. But if you tell them right up front the coolest part, they're like, oh, all right. Always put your coolest boss, your coolest ability right up front. More often than not, people are going to skip over your game rather than experience the coolness. So don't worry about spoilers. Show the coolest stuff. One thing, and this is kind of aesthetic, this capsule, and I'm going to be totally honest, you got me there. I'm here to give advice. I think this looks a little unprofessional. The logo kind of looks like the fire effect on Photoshop, which I used to do in the 90s when I used to first learn Photoshop. One of the best things you can invest in for marketing dollars is a good capsule, because your capsule is used all over. I would hire a professional artist to do your logo like this, and possibly even the art, because I think your game looks good, but your capsule art needs to support that. I've seen with other indies, and I explained this in my class, I compare two indies, and just the capsule art can have a big impact on your traffic and on your wish lists. So dollar for dollar, I think your capsule art is some of the best investment you can make. So now I come to about this game. And like we've discussed in the past, it's kind of like a trailer just in text form with images. And so the first thing I see is this image, which is a cool image, but it doesn't tell me about the gameplay. What I would expect is maybe an animated GIF of each glitch ability that you have. Or if there's a cool boss fight or something that's really unique about your game, this is a great place to show that off. Like this. Oh, right there. You did it. Like this, I assume, is a glitch ability, and it looks like you're kind of phasing through. I'm not entirely sure what's going on. This is confusing. I can't tell if your game is actually like splitting the screen into 3 and you're like, I thought when I first saw this that this was moving me over into this third part of the screen. This is confusing. What I would do is take these 3 and make those 3 GIFs stand on their own. Get rid of this one, get rid of this one. Because this one, I don't know what's going on here. This looks like a cutscene and it's not showing action. It's not showing what you're doing in the game. These are perfect. You did an excellent job with these 3, but they're so tiny and they confused me because I thought this was a screenshot. Like, this was all 3 was one thing. I would just do everything but these 3. Like just these 3 would make you an excellent about this game section. So do that. I don't know what's going on here. It looks like he's just jumping and bumping his head. I don't think this is a great GIF because this is like, I mean, it's kind of funny, but it doesn't tell me about what's unique about your game. Like every platformer, you bump your head on the roof, right? The other thing that's kind of speaking to me is you got Ori and the Blind Forest, which I would expect Ori to show you more like this. Hollow Knight, I would expect because it's a platformer. So I feel like your tags are okay. It's showing the right type of games. I'm worried that I see Jedi Fallen and Cyberpunk. This also means that you don't have the right tags. Let's look at your tag structure here. You've got enough tags, you've got them all, but I think the fact that you have atmospheric single player is messing up with your tags. I would focus on which game you think is most similar. Maybe it's Hollow Knight, maybe it's Ori and the Blind Forest, and match the tags of that so that your game is more closely paired. I do think this is positive, the fact that it says games that are similar, Hollow Knight and Celeste. That seems like those games would be there, but the more like this section has got me worried. So maybe it's time to redo your tags, and it's okay. You can test your tags, try variations, see if that improves things.
Yeah, that makes sense, because if you have something like atmospheric single player in the top tags, then obviously something like Cyberpunk makes sense, I guess.
Yep, I think it's confusing Steam. Steam's like, oh, is this like Cyberpunk or not? Steam can't read your images. Steam doesn't look at this. The only thing it knows to figure out your game is these. Be careful. Tags are powerful stuff. Powerful stuff.
Next up, we're looking at Slimekeep. Finally not a platformer, so this should be interesting.
I'm going to try and figure out what kind of game it is. That's what a player does. They're like, what kind of game? What do I do? Okay, players are thinking like, okay, I think this is like Binding of Isaac and maybe Nuclear Throne. Oh, I don't see a trailer here. Oh, where's the trailer? This has got me where there's no trailer here. And it doesn't have to be a super professional trailer. Even if it's early days, I don't know what the development process is. It doesn't have to be a well-produced trailer like Derek did in the previous stream. It could just be video footage cut together. Like I said, people skim through trailers, so it doesn't have to be a super awesome trailer. Just put some gameplay on here. And the reason is, love it or not, I make pixel art games. Pixel art games have a bad reputation on Steam. People think they're cheap, they don't present well. A lot of the gamers are younger, so they don't have a nostalgic value for pixel art, so they think pixel art is cheap. Video, in showing your pixel art in motion, when you've got like good animations, good squash and stretch, all that kind of stuff, says, okay, this is quality. Like you have good particle effects. Pixel art does better in motion than it does static, so you really need to overcome the fact that people are going to think it's kind of cheap. Not that it is cheap, I'm just saying that's what people feel. So when I see this, I'm thinking, why is there no video? The other thing that I see is these screenshots all look very similar. Now, I know you've got a green game. It's kind of a aesthetic, like a Game Boy style game, but they're all looking very similar screenshots to me. Remember how I said first 4 are very important? The first 4 all look like you're wandering around. You all have 3 hearts. So I'm like, do you only have 3 hearts the whole game? What's going on there? I've always got 0 dots, whatever that is. Players look at your screenshots to see depth. If you remember when I showed you Hollow Knight, there were a lot of colors in there. Like each background was different. And to players, that signals a different zone. So just subconsciously, it's feeling like this game doesn't have much depth because every single level looks the same. Now, if there was one like, it doesn't have to be different colors because you're using green as an aesthetic choice, but I would expect like maybe a cactus or something, you know, like, oh, there's a cactus level, there's a water level, there's this, you know, I'd expect different environments. So already that's kind of got me worried that I'm feeling like this is not a deep game.
Yeah, I think what's the case in this game is that it is very early in development still, or this is a temporary Steam page. So this is just here to basically have the possibility to start collecting wish lists early on. And I just wanted to ask you if you have any specific tips for a situation like that, because as we found out earlier, obviously collecting wish lists is one of the most important things you need to do. So setting up your Steam page early makes sense. But if you set up your Steam page very, very early, then what is kind of the best way to go about that in your opinion if you don't have too much stuff to show yet?
Yeah, and I got to give you credit for having a Steam page up early. I think a lot of indies wait too long to show it. You really should get a Steam page up as soon as you possibly can. I would still do video and still images. It's okay if you just do screenshots and you don't have video, but get up there as soon as you can and try and vary these up as much as possible, as much as humanly possible.
Yeah.
I think it's good that you are showing gun, that there's some wandering. Just be careful about that. And I understand, like, it's hard in the early days. The next thing I see is kind of capsule. I know this is early days if it is. Pixel art capsules are rough. Like I said, indies have a bad reputation of pixel art games, like cheap knockoff pixel art games. And again, I'm not saying that it is. So we have to overcome this. And when you put pixel art in your capsule image, which is this, it reads as I don't have a budget. If you notice, like this, Dead Cells is a perfect example. It's a pixel art game, a very beautiful one, but they got an illustrator to make their cover. Same thing with like Skull. I think this is a pixel art game. A lot of pixel art games will still have a fully illustrated cover. And that's just to show that, like, this is not my first game. I know I can pay for an artist. So I would recommend eventually, if you get to that point, to hire a fully illustrated capsule.
Interesting. So you're kind of collecting prestige points with that. That's what you're trying to do.
Yes.
I kind of wonder if that's also the case if you have like 5 trailers at the beginning of your Steam page, if that also is something that gives you prestige points.
It might, but I think if you have a fully animated one, you're kind of walking the fine line of annoying players and showing off your prestige. Yeah. That's kind of why I say 2 trailers. Here's one way to do prestige. One is also animated trailers. You know, I've seen they do like hand-drawn animation in their trailer, but it doesn't show gameplay. So what I say is first trailer is gameplay, second trailer is your prestige one, where you have like maybe a full cinematic opening and stuff, you know, all that kind of stuff. That gives you the prestige that, hey, I'm spending money on this game. It's worth it. Like if you look at Dead Cells is a good one. They've got these animated trailers, and you're like, whoa, they put some money in this game. It's not just some pixel art game that is like somebody's first game. They put money in this game. So that's where it's prestige. So that's the fine line that you're walking there. One thing, and you know, I'm going to yell at you for this one. You got that indie tag straight up front. Remember, your top 5 tags, super important. So roguelite's good. That's good. 2D, action, procedural generation. Those are good, but you got that indie tag. This is, again, wasted space that could be for a better tag. Your roguelike one is showing Spelunky, but I would expect to see down here, if your tags were right, Nuclear Throne. I would expect to see Nuclear Throne in here. Probably a game like it. And the fact that I'm seeing Dead Cells in here, Dead Cells is a side scroller. That doesn't seem right. That means tags aren't correct here. It's matching to the wrong game. So what I would recommend is look at the game that, if it is Nuclear Throne, which I suspect, or Binding of Isaac, compare those 2 tags for those games and match your tags to those, because you want your game to be listed down here. Like if I'm looking at, let's say, Nuclear Throne, I would expect Slimekeep to be down there. So here's what I would also recommend. Release date, just say 2022. Just say it. This looks like a math problem. Games always take longer than you think they are. So it's 2022. Just be honest with yourself.
True. Very true.
I mean, I could go down. There's no about this game. But again, if you're early phase, you need to put some fun stuff in here. Put some fun stuff in about this game. Animation. You want animations. Pixel art always looks better in animation than it does still. And no slant on pixel art. Again, I make pixel art games, so.
Next up, Dorfromantik. So here's a really try-hard one from some indie dev friends of mine.
Oh yeah, I like this one. Yeah, try hard. That just means good. First thing when I come here, I get the live broadcast. I think it's annoying to have live broadcast, but it actually does well. This is one of those prestige points thing. If you've got a stream going, that means, okay, they've got their act together. They're putting stuff out. Also, thing that shows off prestige is these 2 side banners. That just means you've got graphic designer on staff who can make stuff. Just having these subtle clues makes your game just a little bit higher. So good work on that. Players do close these and do it. It's not the greatest thing, but you should still do these streams. They do help, especially if you're running in a festival. Like if you're featured in a festival, or you're doing like, if you're dropping a major YouTube that's going to send traffic to your game, have a stream running, because they've got 331 viewers. If you can get your traffic up to about 1,000 people constantly streaming this, there's a chance you'll end on the front page of Steam just by having a stream going. If you're in one of these big events, or you're dropping a big streamer coming in, have a video playing here, and you can get some extra bonus visibility just by ending up on the front page of Steam. Okay, first thing, it just feels like a beautiful game. Like, it's hard to describe, just a graphic design. I feel expensive. Like, it just feels like you never walk in a nice hotel and the carpet is soft super soft and padded, and everything's just beautiful, beautiful chandeliers. And you're like, I'm in an expensive place. I just get this feeling from this page. One thing I like to point out, this is a pretty good capsule, but the text is beautiful. Look at this. A lot of indies, first-time indies, they put, what did we see in the last one? Flames on the text, complex gradients. It actually looks more professional if you're simpler. Look, there's no gradient. It's just a nice, clean, white text. Good font choice. Looks so professional versus putting all this like word art design on your text.
I think the capsule looks really, really good. Yeah. 100% agree.
The only thing, and this is me because my eyes aren't great, I did have a hard time kind of parsing what's going on here. I think it's neat that you have these hex tiles, but it doesn't quite read, like if I squint my eyes, it almost looks like a monster. I know if I stare at this long enough that it's a windmill on a hex tile of wheat or something. I kind of get that, but I just can't parse it as well. Like visually, I'm just having a little bit hard time. I don't know what it is, but
I think it's actually the fact that it doesn't have a very clear silhouette. So if you put something on a blank background like that, the silhouette is very important in reading what it is. And this one, if you just look at the silhouette, you just can't read what it is.
Yeah, maybe if you tilt it, that's why I say maybe tilt it so the silhouette of the windmill is more extreme. Like I could see the fans of the sails, and there weren't the other hexes. Again, I'm not a graphic designer, but I could see, just to improve the silhouette, it might make more sense than if it was just a hex tile of the windmill. I think that would be really neat. I love windmills. Who doesn't like a windmill, right? Peaceful building strategy puzzle game. Perfect. This is genre setting. Like, this is what you want to do. Genre setting. Strategy, puzzle, procedure, or peaceful. Like, I know I'm not going to be building troops to like knock on each other. It's peaceful. I think that's great. Another verb, create. Beautiful, ever-changing village landscape by placing tiles. Again, good verbs. This is a perfect short description. You're placing tiles, building a village, that kind of stuff. Explore a variety of colorful biomes, discover and unlock new tiles, and complete quests to fill the world with life. Perfect. This is like the best short description I've read today. When you're writing these, think of all the things that happen when you click a mouse, because these are the verbs that happen in the game. Like, you know, what is he doing? You're placing tiles. When you click, you place a tile, right? You unlock new tiles. You know, like I saw in the video, like if you go far enough, you'll unlock a tile and there's little puzzles to do. You want to be very, very clear what you actually do in the game, right? Tags, for as good as everything is, what do I see in there? Indie tag right in the middle. It's not the first one, so you get some points for that, but I'm a little worried about that indie tag in there. The other couple things is, I don't know, but does early access require you to put the tags up front? I wouldn't put early access tag. If you have the option, you want to add tags that differentiate your game rather than make it generic. And early access, indie, I even think casual kind of are very generic tags. They don't distinguish your game. Like if somebody said, what type of game is this? And you're like, early access, casual, indie. And they're like, yeah, but what do I do in the game? See, those tags don't describe what you do in the game. They're just like qualities of the game.
But isn't casual like one of the tags that could help Steam to recommend similar games and compare the game to other stuff you've played?
It could. And this one is casual is a hard one because it used to mean casual game. If you use the casual tag, it used to mean like you're a solitaire game or you're point and click. All of a sudden, a lot of indies have adopted casual to mean I don't kill people. So tags are kind of like language where it drifts depending on who's using it. Casual has become associated with games that are pretty and you don't kill people and there's no blood. That now has slowly turned into it. Casual is okay. I'll give you a pass on casual, but I think indies use this inappropriately. Originally, it was supposed to be for like a Mahjong game. Like they made a Mahjong game that was casual. But you know what's good? Guess what's in here? Similar to what I've played. Islanders.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a quick Islanders plug?
No, just one interesting side fact that we're actually doing a cross promotion with them, and
that's perfect.
Yeah.
You asked how do people promote their game? That is how you promote it. You get people who've made games similar to you that are more popular or more advanced, and you ask them to cross promote. That is one of the most powerful things. So indies, figure out who's like you and cross promote. And this game, when I first saw this Dorfromantik, I thought, this looks like Islanders. Like, it's beautiful, it's city builder, it's peaceful, it's chill. All those things, you've done a great job of getting these to match. Thumbs up. And you're cross-promoting. Like, that right there is so good. oh, my heart's a flutter just hearing that kind of promotional activity. Like, that's what indies always ask, like, what do I do? Find a friend who makes a game similar to you and then cross-promote your audiences. That's how you do it. Okay,
cool.
I'm not going to watch the trailer, but I really like the trailer. It was chill. It was explaining it. It explains what you do in the game. And I think action took place in like 2 seconds. So all that is good. The other thing that's really cool here, I didn't really talk about these events. Steam likes, have you heard the dreaded dead game? If you don't update your game a lot, especially in early access, people think you have a dead game. But they are putting out events. The last one was March 25th. The previous one was March 12th. Excellent. You want to make your page look alive. Like, we are updating this. We're doing things. Do these things. So post events, do as frequently as you can. So that's Dorfromantik. I like it. I wishlisted it because I think it's cool. If you're wondering, like, okay, we've fixed our Steam pages, we've implemented some of these things, how do you get visibility to your page? I write about that every week on my newsletter, and you can follow that on howtomarketagame.com/free. Every week I send out things that I've learned, techniques that other indies have used, how to like optimize other things outside of your Steam page so you get more people to your page.
The YouTube algorithm unfortunately doesn't really like videos with niche topics like this one. So if you want to help me out and make sure that I can keep making these, then please consider sharing this video with your game developer friends. I'm sure they'll find it just as interesting as you did.
If you're still confused, like you didn't get your page reviewed, I didn't get to take a look at it, you're still kind of curious what the theory behind all these things, why I'm saying you should do this or that, I give you the full context of how the Steam page works. I made a free class that you can take. It's called howtomakeasteampage.com. You sign up through there, and then it's a free class. It takes about an hour to get through, and I just walk through every single element and how, what best practice is, what's good, what's bad, recommendations. I look at other Steam pages, so you kind of get that full context. So howtomarketagame.com/free and howtomakeasteampage.com. Those are your two resources that I have. I hope to be able to help you all. That's probably the best. Other than that, thank you so much, Jonas.